Hello, my name is Mike Usrey, and today on FM Live is a bit of a special episode because we've just crossed the 50,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. So thanks to everybody watching because we wouldn't have been able to get here without you, of course. And because of that, we wanted to give back and kind of show you a little bit of behind the scenes that happens here at Flyin Miata. So today we're doing a shop tour. We haven't done one in a while and things do look a little bit different. So I'm gonna walk through the shop. We're gonna talk about some of the things that happens here day to day, some of the special projects maybe that we're working on, we'll see. But if you have any questions along the way, of course, feel free to drop those down in the comments below and we'll try to address them as we go throughout the building, talking about some of the different things that happen here every day. Now, before we go inside, of course, I have to point out that if we're in Colorado, there's a lot of folks that think that we're actually in California. Nope, we're in Palisade, Colorado. So behind me, you can actually see the Grand Mesa. It's the world's tallest flat top mountain, if I recall. Don't ask me the exact number of feet or meters. Unfortunately, I don't know. It's over 10,500 feet, I think. But this is basically where the shop is. We're out in the middle of a bunch of vineyards and orchards here in Palisade, Colorado. It's a really pretty place. It's kind of a nice drive actually in or out on either side of our shop. But we're not here for that, are we? Let's go ahead and start heading inside because this is what everybody wants to see, is where all the magic happens with Miatas. So this is our shop. Doesn't look like a whole bunch on the outside, but of course, there's more on the inside. Come on in. All right, so right inside the door here, we have our customer support entrance, and you could say kind of like the home away from home for our show inventory. So normally this is the stuff that we take with us when we go to shows and events like Miatas at the Gap or Miata Reunion, but of course it has to stay somewhere whenever it's not around at shows, so we have it here in the entryway. Beyond that, this is also customer support department. So just around the corner here, we have our customer support team busily working away. Of course, answering lots of emails and phone calls. We got Nick in the back corner. Kian here. He's answering lots of phone calls today, so we'll not bother him too much. But if you call in or email us or send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you usually talk to one of these guys. So that way we can get back to you as soon as possible. We're also going to go through on this way through the office and continue on to the next area. And this is arguably one of the more important parts of the shop as well, because this is where all the parts come from. So out here, this is the entrance to our shipping department. And you can see lots of shelves, lots of boxes. And that's right, most of these are products that are ready to go. Basically, a lot of this section here that we're looking at right now, if you make an order, our shipping team is ready to pull this off the shelf, slap a label on it, and get it going. Also, over here, kind of where the actual shipping magic happens, if there's any packaging that needs to happen, need to add any material to make sure little things get packed together safely, so that way they get to you without, hopefully, damage in transit. We have a ton of workstations here. We have a lot of the new actual cool digital stuff. We've got barcode scanners nowadays. Things have come a long way in the last few years. Packing material, boxes, basically anything that our shipping team needs, they can use to be able to get your new order out the door safely and quickly. Our shipping team, they're actually taking a quick break right now. They get very excited around cameras, so we gave them some sugar. We sent them off. That way, we didn't get too rowdy out here. But we'll go ahead and keep moving so that way they don't figure it out too quickly before we can get out of the shipping department. But besides the shipping department, where stuff's actually headed out the door, let me show you real quick the assembly area. Over here in this area, basically this other side of the department, or warehouse, you could say, we have a lot of stuff that when it comes in, this is kind of where raw materials come. We have a lot of hardware, we have a lot of hoses, we have a lot of wiring, we have a lot of fittings, you name it, little bits and bobs. We have hardware shelf over here that's just a bunch of yellow bins. Doesn't look impressive on video, but basically we order in a lot of individual components so that way when we need to put together like one of our fan kits, or if we need to put together like a turbo kit or whatever that has a lot of little bits and pieces, weather stripping, wire, nuts, bolts, fittings, you name it. We actually do a lot of that assembly here in-house using components that we order from a bunch of different manufacturers. So that way, when you get the box, it's already got all of the different components ready to go. You don't have to run to the hardware store. We've already done it for you. So a big part of our shipping team spends time here in the assembly area before it makes its way over here, because a lot of this stuff that you can see with labels on it, these are boxed, ready to go out the door. They do a lot of batches for different kits, so that way we can be as efficient with our time as possible and do 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever of a single product in a go. That way it's just ready to roll out the door. So, speaking of getting products ready to go, one of the things that I've talked about before, and we have another video about it that we'll probably link in the product description, is our print farm. We have a 3D printer farm of sorts. We currently have 10 printers that we're gonna go take a quick peek at those, just see how they're going, because that is a pretty big part of our operation these days. We do print a lot of tools, a lot of brackets, a lot of little adapters, and all of the printer stuff lives up here. So, let's see here. This probably looks familiar if you've seen that video. We've talked about our Pantheon printers, and then we have our Markforged printers, but you can see that they are going. This happens almost 24/7. As soon as parts are done printing, like we've got some firewall plates for the Randall cowl intakes for NAs and NBs here on these Pantheons. When they're done, usually Kyle or one of the engineers will come over, pull them off the printers, and then get them going on another batch. Let's see. A lot of these ones, actually, pop the lid on this one. I like these Markforged the way that you can kind of just open the top and see what's going on. Looks like these are the little surround pieces, the roll bar, hide your ugly cuts covers, basically. They go around the roll bars and NAs and MBs, so that way when you cut the carpet, you have something to cover that potentially not so smooth or nice looking cut that you did on the carpet. Just makes it a really easy tidy up option. But a lot of that kind of stuff we print here. It's all done in-house. We have tools. We have tons, well, maybe not tons, but several kilograms of filament for when we print. These guys, they go through the 3 kilogram ones, I think, maybe a week or less. They're kept running all the time. So we do go through a lot of filament. Besides that, over here on this side, that whenever we get batches of products that are done, we have lots of little shopping carts. So that way, anytime we need to take a bunch of one item down to go get put in inventory, when we have a print batch that is done on all of the different printers, basically put it in our shopping cart, take it down to the shipping team, and then the shipping team will package it into whatever it's going with. If it's a kit, if it's an item, if it's a tool, whatever. But this is the kind of the production side of the facility here, that we're actually making parts in-house. And that's all we do for actual production stuff. Everything else we're generally putting together, but we don't have CNC machines. We don't have, welding setups, that kind of thing. That's all done for us by our specialty manufacturers. But we do manufacture 3D printed stuff in-house. Besides that, down that way, we're actually not gonna go down that direction, but this is the rest of our conference room. We also hang out here for like company lunches, that kind of thing. And then further on down, we have the, we'll just say the playpens for the engineers and the cave for our social media team. They need to feel safe and secure in their own little area. So we've got them over there. We won't bother them. We don't want to scare them. So we're gonna go back downstairs and we'll check out a little bit more of the shop from here. So come on through, watch your step. Nobody's died on these steps yet, but we always tell people to be careful. All right, so we have a couple of questions. So maybe, should we stop and do those questions real quick? Yes, well. Yeah, okay. Let's stop and do a question real quick. What do we have? Oh, are all of these Mazda parts? You could say yes or no to that question. So a lot of these parts, they're not originally intended for Mazdas or Miatas in particular. We do a lot of stuff where we work with manufacturers to do custom things that then we make into parts for Miatas. So asterisk on that. But as far as like what we intend them to be, yes, they are for Miatas specifically. We just sell parts for Miatas. I guess you could say that there are a few little, probably a dozen or so Fiat 124s out there that have some Flyin Miata parts on them. But that's just because they do share suspension with the new ND Miatas. But otherwise, yeah, this is all for Miatas. Oh, are there any parts that are a pain to ship? Yes. Actually, here, I'll show you something. We've got some, just to show you some examples of some of the stuff that we have. Like we've got suspension over here. We've got, I think these are flat bottom braces on these ones. Let's see, yeah. So these are some of the RGR splitters. And it's not very heavy, but it's a pretty big box. So we actually have some of our shipping team. We've got 3 gals on our shipping team right now that are all, on the smaller side, but they heft around even big boxes like this. But they do, big stuff, small stuff. We have lots of like individual fluids and stuff that we sell, and they have to be boxed together. But some of the other stuff that's a little bit more difficult is going to be, we have like exhaust systems and our sway bars over here. And these guys, you can kind of see some of the big, long, awkward shaped boxes up on the top shelf are like, we got intercoolers, or actually some of the various diffusers up there on the very top shelf. Some of these big flat boxes that are sway bars. So some of this stuff, I guess it depends on whether you think, heavy stuff is bad or if just awkward shaped stuff is bad. Actually, here's, we got Mazda speed downpipes, or mid pipes and mufflers. These boxes are literally bigger and heavier than some of our shipping team. So, yeah, there's definitely some awkward stuff. But luckily, our shipping team, they're very experienced with how to deal with this kind of stuff. They're literally moving and throwing these boxes around all day, every day. So they know exactly what to do. We have a forklift. We have several different like dolly trucks and stuff like that. So they take care of any that needs to be moved around, even if it's awkward. Those are probably some of the most awkward stuff. But besides that, let's go take a look at some of the more... Oh, do we have more questions? Yeah, so question is, do we print every part that we get an order for as they come, or do we print big batches? And we do print batches. I didn't really clarify that while we were up there, but basically we might say that we sell 30 of these in a month of whatever part. So we typically try to print with a little bit of a forecast on what we expect to sell. There's always a little bit of guessing and estimation, but basically, yeah, we print in batches. So those shopping carts, those little, hand shopping carts I was showing you, that's what that is. We're just printing in batches until we get to the 30 or however that we're supposed to have. And then we bring it down here, and usually they get assembled with some hardware or whatever it is into a kit. We're going to sell the baskets. That's probably Corey, wasn't it? No? Oh man, I'm surprised. No, we're not selling the Flyin Miata baskets. We'll have to see if maybe we can make a speed version later. But no, we've got basically baskets that, you might recognize them from different stores, shopping centers, that kind of thing. They came with the building. We didn't steal them, I promise. We bought the building, and it had a couple of carts. And the little hand baskets you can buy on that big, actually, let's go this way. You can buy those on that big South American jungle store. Over here, we have more boxes. This is actually where we store specifically all of our wheels. So we have a bunch of our Kogekis. We have quite a few of the like wheels over here. We also have, I think, a few of the Tobus left, which are discontinued at a special price. If you're looking for some cool wheels for your ND, check out the Tobus. They're on discount right now because they're on, basically, once we sell out, they're gone. So if you want them, you better grab them now. But basically, anytime we get a shipment of wheels, because they normally come on a big container truck, we usually have big, tall pallets, and then we sort them into different sizes, different colors, and this is where all of our wheels live. We also have what we refer to as our QC shelf, and this is where sometimes we'll get product in that needs to be inspected for, making sure that everything actually looks the way it's supposed to, has all the right fittings, all the right parts and pieces where they should. So once they're inspected, then they can go out onto the shelf and actually be sold. Or if we discovered that there's a product that a customer had an issue with, maybe we need to take a look at it when it comes back here. It lives here basically until we can take a moment to inspect it and see what's going on. But that's this side of the shop. This side of the shop, most of you are probably already pretty familiar with because we do the majority of our tech talk videos, installation theory videos, that kind of stuff, all on this side. So of course, we have our shop cars, we have our lifts. This all should look pretty familiar. One of the things we don't talk a lot about though is the other side of this end of the shop. So this, kind of similar to the wheels, this is where when we get bulk freight items, some of the stuff that we order in, we literally get hundreds or thousands of whatever at a time. And it has to usually come on a pallet. So when that happens, we unload the truck and it gets staged back here. So a lot of this is big bulk shipment that we get on pallets that then gets broken down into individual components and they either assembled or directly sold if it's ready to go out of the box. So that's mostly all of the shipping department. I kind of glazed over some of the details. If you have questions about it, let me know. We can certainly go back and talk about it. But basically, our building, our facility is 70, maybe 80% about shipping. That's why the biggest part of this building is dedicated to boxes. I see we have a question. So the question is, what should I ask about in these videos? Anything that you're curious about that's on topic. Basically, if you want to know about, will these Miata seats fit in your Subaru BRZ? I don't know. I can't answer that. But if it's something topical about the video, drop a comment down below. I'd love to answer questions, especially if it's not something I've already been talking about. Actually, a good example, we had a question earlier before the video went live about our solar system. So for those of you that are into electrical, like we'll say AC systems or just solar in general, we do actually have solar on this building. When we moved in about, I think 2008 is when we moved into this building. A few years afterwards, we invested in solar. So we have quite a few panels up on top of the roof, and they help to at least supplement some of the power because, of course, it's a big building. We have lots of lights. We have heaters. We have swamp coolers. You know, there's lots of electrical need here. So we did that to offset it. But the question was, how much solar power do we generate? It's going to fluctuate, but generally out here, our solar panel setup is good for about 10 kilowatts or so. So it's an older system. It's not terribly efficient, but it's good for, basically running lights and a few other auxiliary things and just reducing our electrical needs as a company. So yeah, questions like that, like a little bit off the wall, random stuff. Another good one actually that we got earlier is, do we still have the shock tower brace that it's in the bathroom that we used to hang our towels on? Yeah, we still have a shock tower brace. I forget which brand it is, but it's an older one. Keith has used it in one of his shock tower brace videos where he talks about, if it's actually flexible or not. So he shows, flexing around. It's not good for anything on a car, but it's good for a towel rack. So yeah, we still have that. We got more questions. Travis is dying in the background. Are we going to flick? Yeah. So yes, we have a blinking light. We know. Trust me, we're more bothered by it than you are. Yeah, basically we have a to-do list for our electrician to come out here and do some things. But because all of our lights are high up, we have to get them to come out here with one of those extending service. I forget what they're called. I'm sure somebody in the comments can correct me, but they're a scissor lift. That's what it is. So we don't have a scissor lift, and no, we aren't going to balance on our forklift to change out light bulbs. But yes, we will get that fixed soon. Ooh, good question. Are we going to outgrow this building? Quite possibly. This has been a very good year for us. So thanks to all of you for supporting us and for having fun with your Miatas. That's what we're all here to do. But do we have a plan for moving out of this building or, expanding this building? Not at the moment. Right now we are actually looking at these walls that you can see here, these kind of dividing walls in between this side and that side, and in between kind of this half of the shop and that half of the shop. They are in the way at this point. This building used to be used for different kind of storage before we bought it. And so when we set it up, we had lifts and stuff like that as well. And we thought, you know, this would be handy. But now we're getting to the point where actually these walls are creating more of a blockage than they are helping to kind of store and sort all of the inventory. So at the moment, we're actually looking at reconstructing or at least moving things around, probably knocking down some of these walls to give us more room and then restructure what we have. So we're not running out of space yet. We're doing pretty good with what we have, but that's a great question. That's something that we have to think about going forward. But fortunately, for now, we're doing all right here. Ooh, good question. Was how many packages do we send out a week? This varies a lot. I think at the moment, Keith was just telling me about this. I think that we're doing somewhere around the ballpark of 600-ish orders a week. That probably translates to somewhere in the ballpark of 700-800 packages, because some orders will have multiple boxes per order. So yeah, we're sending out, you know, not quite 1,000 packages a week, but we're keeping plenty busy. We've got 6 shipping team personnel, and we keep them busy all the time. They are never twiddling their thumbs. Again, thanks to all of you. We really appreciate it. So we've done a lot of this before, but maybe some of the things you haven't seen in the technical area or engineering side of the shop before is we called it the dyno room a long time ago because we actually used to have a dynamometer, and that's where we used to do tuning when we had like the Hydras and the Lynx and the ME221 ECUs, that kind of stuff. Since we're not doing aftermarket ECU tuning anymore, basically this room has turned into a fabrication room. So anytime Kyle or Ryan or Brandon need to do a little bit of figuring out, this room has now turned into kind of a safe spot for using the sanding belt, the grinder, the mill, the cutoff wheels, the, you know, basically anything that's going to be messy, throwing sparks, throwing metal everywhere, because it's contained. We don't have to worry about it getting all over the shop cars. We don't have to worry about it getting into inventory, that kind of stuff. So you can actually see where this wood piece, this panel is. This used to be where the dyno used to live. You can actually look back at some older videos on our YouTube channel and see some of the dyno runs with like the big turbos or the V8 cars, that kind of stuff. That's where this all happened, was in here. But nowadays we don't have the dyno. It's now a fabrication room for, you know, one-off stuff. We need to figure something out. So our engineers use this to keep the rest of the shop a little bit cleaner. On that note, some of the old stuff that we don't use anymore, or maybe is a little bit, you know, off in the side, gathering dust. We have a big whiteboard, so if we need notes for our videos, of course, we use this. But also, we have a ton of storage shelves over here, and we've kind of repurposed a lot of it here recently because we got rid of some old stuff. We needed some room to be able to store show parts for like any of our storage or tables or displays, that kind of stuff. When we go to shows, it has to live somewhere when it comes back. We also have, of course, multiple sets of wheels and tires whenever we need to change tires on our cars for going to the track or driving across country, that kind of stuff. We do have several engines here that we get questions about. Do you guys sell engines? No, we actually keep these on hand because if we need to test out a product where we're just seeing if it fits, does it actually physically fit on an engine? It's easier to do that here first, just for initial test fitment. If, you know, we need to see like, does it line up with certain bosses on the block, that kind of thing, we can do that here. And it's much easier than having to remove a ton of stuff on the car, depending on what it is. A lot of times we do our initial fitment tests here, or like, actually, here's a good one. So on this one's actually turned around, so you can see we've got our coolant reroute housing bolted on here. And when we designed our custom EGR tube for our NA and NB turbo kits, let's see, this is specific to, I think it's the NA8 turbo kit, if I recall. You have to have a special EGR tube that we provide, but we wanted to make sure that it fit exactly where it was supposed to and had room to clear the coolant reroute. So obviously accessing this engine on a stand is much, much easier than doing it in the car. So that way we can do quick prototyping and, you know, try out different shapes, different bends, whatever we need to do, much, much easier than taking a car apart, especially reaching back behind an engine in a car. So we have a lot of that kind of stuff going on. I saw that we have a question. So maybe you could clarify in the comments about fastest generation of Miata and something about a swap an engine. Oh, do we have clarification?
How fast can we swap it?
Oh, how fast can we swap an engine? Okay, that makes more sense. Got it. Good question. Probably, I have to have Kyle's word on this one to see, because he's normally the one that would do that if we needed to. That's a tough one. I know Kyle's done engine swaps in all 4 generations. I don't know. We'll have to see if maybe we can get Kyle to chime in on this later. Maybe Travis can put an answer here, over the video once it's edited on the 4K widescreen later. Or Logan. Good question though. I don't know. I'll ask Kyle and I'll find out for you. Besides the stuff over here, or the engines and things like that, one of the things that we have also been squirreling away that is not available for sale is also the same kind of reason, test parts. We have a lot of individual parts and pieces that, as we've taken them off cars, we might need to have a reference material for a stock part. So there's a lot of just parts we've taken off. Like this is mostly NC stuff. Over here we've got ND parts. So if we ever needed to reference the ND Brembo calipers or their mounting points or anything like that for engineering purposes, if we needed to reference, what the bolt pattern is on a stock shock hat, something like that for the ND front or rear suspension, that kind of thing. Basically, we've got parts here that if we need to take a look at them and say, okay, cool. Whoop, and I'll throw bolts on the ground. Cool, I can see that the bolt pattern spacing is this on this intake manifold. We don't have to pull it off a car. So we try to keep parts like that are handy, so that way when we need a handy, quick reference, we can do that. I'll come back and pick those up later. Besides that, basically over here we have parking for the shop cars. And you've seen these in the background, but we specifically, Kyle actually put together parking spots. So that way we keep them out of the way. Whenever we actually have a pretty busy morning usually with the shipping team bringing inventory in and out on all of the pallets off the trucks, we actually specifically needed to have parking over here to keep the cars out of the way, because shipping was running into, couldn't get past them. There were cars in the way. So we actually made more room over here so that way shipping could have easier access to this staging area on this side. Let's see, other interesting stuff. You can kind of see on some of these boxes up here, we've got other things that are labeled with a bunch of like testing. There's 3D printed parts over here. There's more on these shelves over here. Basically, if we need to reference any kind of test material that we've used in the past, we try to hang on to it for a reasonable amount of time before we throw stuff away. We don't like to keep clutter if we can. So, every now and then we'll clean stuff out and go through the shelves. But basically, that's kind of the stuff that's in the background that we don't usually talk about, because it's usually just for reference material for us. Let's see, what other dark and dirty secrets have we not talked about? Stuff that's over here, again, not necessarily bright and shiny stuff, but we do have a tire mounting, wheel and tire mounting machine. This is something that, of course, we actually do go through quite a few tires, believe it or not. We do have a Keith Tanner, and he does like to drive cars hard. So, they wear out the tires when that happens. So we have to get new tires on eventually. Also, of course, we do have, again, more wheels and tires here that are stock takeoffs from when we get new cars, or if we have reference tires for like taking them to shows. I guess not reference tires, but, pretty wheel and tire setups for going to shows, that kind of stuff. So we do have a little bit of that storage over here. We don't use it very often, but we do have stuff like a crane or a hoist, and then also an AC machine. So if we ever have to basically drain an AC system because we need to take it apart to access a part and then put it back together, we can do that safely and not have to worry about getting Freon anywhere or, endangering people. We also have a balancing machine for wheels and tires because, again, of course, If you're going to have a mounting solution, you need to have a balancing solution. We do also have a parts washer. So this doesn't get used a whole bunch for day-to-day stuff, but occasionally we'll use it for if we're cleaning up a part that we got. Maybe we had to order something from Alex Todd that was a used part that we're going to use into the display. Like we ordered some brake uprights, some suspension uprights. Wanted to wash them off before we painted them, so use it for that kind of thing. More often than not, actually, we use this for personal projects. So I'll come in, I'll work on my car, and sometimes I need to wash a part, and I'll toss it in there real quick. That kind of stuff. Besides that, of course, the standard shop fare. We've got oil catcher, we've got a transmission jack, we've got brake bleeder, vacuum bleeder setup. We do have, oh, I don't know if we want to venture back behind there. Should we show off the dark and dirty behind the dyno? It's an air compressor back there. It's not really that impressive. Besides that, maybe the more interesting stuff is going to be kind of around the corner here. So a lot of the stuff on this corner that is not usually featured in the videos is going to be more of the engineering team's tools and reference parts. So we have another toolbox over here, basically that and some other workbenches and other storage for miscellaneous tools, parts and pieces. But a lot of the stuff that's happening over here that, like for instance, on our NC turbo kit, that a lot of times will live over here, are 3D printed parts that we're needing to reference or go back and forth with. So if we needed to check position on the manifold when we were designing the NC turbo kit, we actually printed a whole turbo, because this is much easier to mount and dismount every time you want to change to a different manifold design compared to an actual turbo. So stuff like that. If we needed to reference any of the other bits and pieces for stuff that they're working on at that time, a lot of that will live over here. I see we got a question, so I'll stop and see what we got. Oh, good question. That's actually a question we get a lot, is how many of these cars that you're seeing here in the shop are employee cars? At the moment, these are all FM cars. So we do have a full complement of at least one of every generation. We actually have 2 NAs and 2 NDs at the moment, and then 1 NB, 1 NC, but they're all FM owned cars. We do occasionally have videos where we feature an employee car, like my car's been in a few videos, Travis's car's been in a few videos, even Logan's car has been in a video now. So that happens from time to time, but at the moment, all of these cars, these are all FM shop cars. So we do use them for prototyping, for testing up parts. Often, like when you see a car up in the lift, it's because our engineers are actually checking stuff out, taking measurements. Maybe they have a 3D printed part that they're testing on there to see if it's going to work out for whatever material it's going to be made in later, that kind of stuff. But good question. Yeah, not all of these are employee cars or FM cars. It just depends on which video you're watching. But these ones are all FM cars. Oh, hey, we've got a lot of exciting stuff over here at the moment. We have lots of turbos. These look like disco potatoes. So if you're into NC turbo kits, we are gearing up to have some more ready in the not too distant future. Wink, wink. But these guys are actually over here because one of the things that we need to do whenever they come in is they come to us from Garrett, or our turbo supplier, as a standard off-the-shelf turbo. On the NC turbo kits, we actually have to disassemble them a little bit. We take these compressor housings off, and then we send them to our metal fab shop here in town, if I can grab it, and have them add on a little elbow. And the compressor outlet on these guys, you can see, faces out to the side compared to the compressor inlet, but we need them to face forward. So we actually have our local metal fab shop modify these outlets so that way they have these 90-degree elbows on them, so that way they actually fit in the engine bay with our intercooler piping. So this is another step in the assembly process, is actually physically having stuff modified, because Garrett doesn't offer a compressor housing that suits us for our application specifically. So a lot more work that you might not really think about that we do actually end up having to do on the back end, because we want your life to be easy. We don't want you guys to have to worry about fabricating stuff if you don't have to. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you, and we do the hard stuff before it even gets to you. Besides that, some of the stuff that we use from time to time is we do have a set of hub stands from Paco Motorsports. We use these very, very often whenever we change out suspension systems, when we set ride heights. We'll do, preliminary alignments or whatever we need to do if we need to make tweaks and changes. So we've got a full set of those. We do have a bunch of other tools, kind of specialty tools. I don't know how much you want to kind of get over here. Of course, we do have a lot of our own seal installer tools and jack adapter and oil drain funnel and other, bits and pieces that, of course, we sell, but we also use them here in the shop. They're not just stuff that we peddle online for no reason. We actually use them here ourselves. We do have specialty tools back here, some supplies. Oftentimes when you need to do different kinds of testing, we keep random bits of silicone hose, that kind of stuff, when we do some mad scientist experiments on cooling systems, all kinds of just data acquisition stuff. One of the things that we actually have grown to really like since the NC Turbo Kit is stuff from Banks. So we've got a bunch of Banks modules and sensors and things like that, that anytime we need to do instrumented testing, we actually utilize this quite a bit. So Banks has the iDash, which we sell. There's the new version available on our website. But they have a whole host of other stuff that we don't sell that they do if you want to go, a whole extra few 9 yards, because you can do, actually, I think the new stuff, you don't even have to run these extra channel add-ons, but they have a ton of sensors that you can kind of daisy chain together. So when we did the NC Turbo Kit testing, we used a ton of sensors for pressure, for temperature, for, basically, is the system healthy? Is it working like we intend it to? So there's a lot of instrumentation and that kind of thing that we keep over here as well. We do have some bits and bobs. I'll get to your question in just a second. That are like, spare stuff, bolts. You can kind of see maybe from this side that we used to actually sell salvage parts. We don't anymore. If you need help with salvage stuff or used parts, check out help.flyinmiata.com and look for used salvage parts in the search bar. We do have, I think, 6 or 7 different shops that we recommend, so check there. But back when we did salvage, of course, we took apart quite a few cars. We do keep a lot of the hardware, so that way if we need something when we're prototyping, we don't have to make a run to the hardware store. We can just come over here and say, I need an M10 by 1.5 nut. We have it. I need a OEM pinch style hose clamp that's, looks like 1.25 inches. We got it. Basically, this is our time saver for a lot of the experimentation and trial and error when we do engineering stuff. So we keep it on hand. That way we have it quick at hand. What is the question? So question is, what is my favorite tool in the shop? This. Having lifts makes most every job so much easier. It's probably not what you were expecting or hoping to answer. Travis ran because he thought I was going to point at him. But no, having a lift is amazing. So if I had to give up some of the other tools in the shop, I would before giving up a lift. This makes working on cars so much more convenient. Besides trick answer here, I think probably my favorite tool in the shop. Oh, that's a good one. I don't know if I have a specific other favorite tool. I think probably some of my favorite tools at the moment anyway. We've got a few different impacts and wrenches and stuff from Harbor Freight. They're just the Hercules lineup. They're not fancy, but man, just having a few different assorted electric impacts and tools of that nature makes it so much easy to just take care of whatever it is you need to do. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of time wrenching on stuff. Basically, it's the quick, easy button, so that way you can get jobs done faster. So, sorry, boring answer. Let's see. That might be it for the stuff that, is not really actually dark and dingy. So I'll stop here and ask, do you have any questions? Are there things I haven't covered? stuff that you want to see, now's the time. Some random facts while I'm waiting for comments to roll in. We have 2 lifts. We used to have 6 in the building when we were doing work on customer cars. But now we don't do work on customer cars. We're just doing our own engineering and finding out, basically, exploratory surgery on our cars. So when that happens, of course, we have our engineers. We've got 3 full-time engineers that they come in and out of the shop from the office when they need to look at cars or look at parts. So they have 2 lifts that they can use for that. Other interesting information we have, trying to think. We do have 1 welder. We don't really do that much fabrication. Again, we're not really about fabrication stuff. We do have a welder, so that way, like in the case of, sorry, Travis, you're going to be in the video. In the case of, here we go, the NC downpipes with the catalytic converters. Of course, when we tried this for the first time, we ended up doing this ourselves. So I think one of our engineers welded this up, and that way we could see if it was even going to work before we have these done now professionally by a metal fabrication shop that they have a jig, they cut it perfectly, they weld it perfectly, it's all held in place. You don't have to worry about it. But when we do a lot of the finding out, we do have some fabrication stuff, including a welder and welder to do this kind of stuff. Do we have a break room? So yes, we have 2 of them actually. Here, I'll show you. So the one upstairs that was by the print farm, that was kind of like conference area, lunch area. You could consider that a break room. Also, besides that, we have our outdoor patio. I don't think we've ever really talked about this, so this is a great video for it. Anytime if it's nice outside, or at least, you know, relatively warm and sunny, we sometimes will go out here and have lunch. All the chairs are put away because nobody's out here at the moment, but basically, it's a back covered patio, and especially in the afternoon like this, there's enough shade up against the building that it's pretty nice. We can watch, you've got Mount Garfield right out the door here. Actually, it looks great with the clouds behind it today. And then we have all the orchards and vineyards that are on that side, because again, we're kind of out here amongst a lot of agriculture. Our location, our shop location, is actually a bit strange because you go either direction on the little access road that comes out here, and it's just orchards and vineyards and some wineries. That's it. We're the only car shop out here that actually does, you know, this kind of stuff. There's a few little, I guess you could say, like off-road shops here and there, but for the most part, where we are is agriculture. We actually are a pretty odd shop for our area. But yeah, those are our 2 break rooms, if you will. Oh, we got more questions? Okay. Ooh, do employees get to use the shop for work on their personal cars? Yes, that is one of the benefits of being an FM employee, is that, you know, after hours or, you know, on your lunch break, as long as one of the engineers or, you know, somebody else isn't using the facilities for work, yeah, we do work on our own cars here. Of course, everything that we do, we make sure everybody is, if they're using the lift or using, you know, any of the tools, that they're actually knowledgeable about it. We don't just let people go play. We do actually have Kyle go through and teach everybody how to use tools properly before they get to come out here. So there's a little bit of order to that chaos. But yes, a lot of the employee cars, mine included, have been worked on here in the shop many, many hours. Oh, yes. Okay. Do we accept visits? Do we do tours? Yeah, absolutely. We don't have a ton of folks that are here local, so we don't actually have that many people who stop in at the shop. But if you happen to find yourself out this way, maybe you're visiting family, maybe you're driving through to, you know, go to Kansas because you've got family that lives out there, whatever, you're welcome to stop in. We're about 15 minutes off of I-70, right outside Palisade. So we're not actually that far. If you are driving down I-70 and you'd like to come stop and say hi, yeah, for sure. We're gonna head out to the parking lot. There are not as many Miatas outside as there are inside. I will forewarn you. But basically, somebody wants to see what the parking lot looks like. And I think I hear the shipping team, so you might get to see some of the excellent and quick work that they do. So the parking lot, for those of you that haven't been to summer camp or haven't come out here to visit us, basically it is a bit of asphalt and then a lot of gravel. It's nothing terribly fancy. I think, I'm going to guess right now we have 5 Miatas out front. And then probably quite a few other cars. At the moment, temperatures for us are, close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So most of the folks who have non-Miatas are driving them because the AC works better generally. And here our shipping team is hard at work. We have Beth, our shipping lead, hard at work as usual. Oh, and everybody else just totally scrammed. That's excellent. They saw the camera coming through and they ran for the door. They're a bit skittish. It's okay. They're all nice people. So, out here in the parking lot, yeah, first thing you see, bunch of not Miatas, unfortunately. Oh, did I say 4? Did I say 5? I said 5. Ah, so close. Actually, there might be a 5th parked around back. But basically, we've got a few Miatas, and we don't have assigned parking, but it just happens that mostly Miatas park on the asphalt. And then generally the non-Miatas just tend to park in the gravel. But yeah, we've got everything from, looks like a Honda Civic to Xterra. We've got a Scion XB. We've got a BMW 5 Series. We have a Jeep Compass, I think. Mazda 6. So there's a pretty wide variety of different cars out here. But, daily drivers. Comfortable. They have AC. That's pretty important out here. It's not super humid, but basically it is hot enough. So speaking of which, let's go back inside. Speaking of orders, actually, one thing we didn't look at, this is the outbound table, and it's not quite done getting filled up for today, but this is probably a relatively mid to light day, actually, with how many boxes there are here. Sometimes we'll have boxes that are literally stacked, to the light. And of course, the FedEx guy, when he shows off, is wondering why he does what he does. But we are keeping plenty busy. Again, thank you so much to everybody who supports us and, wants their car to go fast, brake fast, go around corners fast, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, do we have any other questions, Travis? We've talked about most other things. All right. Well, unless there's any other questions that we should answer last minute, we can probably end it there. That's basically the shop. Hopefully it was interesting for you guys. Again, thank you so much for all of our subscribers. We wouldn't be able to do a lot of the fun stuff that we do around here without the support of everybody who watches us and buys parts from FM. So thank you so much to everybody. We really, really appreciate it. If we didn't catch you live and you got questions still that you're watching this on YouTube later, drop them in the comments. We do watch and respond to all of the comments that we get for these videos. So feel free to comment. We'll answer you as soon as we can. Also, of course, feel free to call us if you want to. Shout us out. We got our phone number. It'll be in the description down below, along with our email address. You can get a hold of us through Instagram, Facebook, all kinds of things. So hopefully, if you have any questions about the shop, either come out and visit us or get in touch with us. But otherwise, thanks again for watching. If you like this kind of content, of course, give it a like, subscribe, that kind of thing. But we will see you next week. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one.